Singing really is like that, okay? Everything kind of affects the other things. So is it the jaw tension that's causing the vibrato problems, or is it the vibrato problems that's causing the jaw tension, or the tongue tension, or the breath tension, or the this, the da 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 da? They all come together and they influence each other. Sometimes really. Hey everybody, welcome to Take the Stage Voice Studio. I'm Evan Dunn. I've gotten several new followers, and I haven't done a talking video for a little while, so I thought it'd be fun to show my face and introduce myself. And I've just been having so fun making these videos and getting to know people. In fact, I've had so many people reaching out with ideas for other videos, or sending me recordings of singers that they want to talk about. One of my listeners sent a whole Google Drive full of ideas that they've compiled of things that they want to learn about, that we can make videos about and talk about. So if you have ideas of things that you like, please send them my way. I'd love to, discover new singers and talk about different fun things. Today, I wanted to talk about the US national tour of Les Miserables, as we say. And my wife and I got tickets and we went to go see it, and we had an amazing time. The storytelling was beautiful, the sets were beautiful, the costumes were beautiful, and honestly, all the singers, they were just beautiful singing actors and actresses, and we had a really good time. And but during intermission, Hannah leaned over to me and is like, so some of these singers, I cannot hear what words they're saying. Like, what is it, their diction? Do they need more consonants? What do they need? And I've actually done a video that kind of talks about that, where we talked about how if the vowel is distorted, then it doesn't matter how strong your consonants are, we're not going to hear and understand the words. And so, and those vowels can be distorted because of technical issues, tension, registration problems. There's lots of different things why that can happen. But there was one thing in particular that stood out in this particular performance of singers that were hard to understand, and it was actually the vibrato. We heard a variety of different vibrato problems. We heard a wobble, we heard vibrato where it wasn't correctly accented, or where the vowel was changing during the vibrato, and we heard various different things from different singers. And the main person that was hard to hear was actually one of the main characters. And he had a beautiful, sweet voice. And he had some really nice moments when, things would slow down and we could kind of hear what he was saying. But a lot of the time, and particularly for the whole first act, honestly, I know every single word of the musical Les Mis. It's one of the first musicals that I, fell in love with and got to know from listening a lot. And I didn't understand almost a single word that he said for the whole first act. And it's because his vibrato wasn't accenting properly. So I'm going to try to demonstrate a little bit about what this is and why this is happening. But I'll start by saying, and I'll demonstrate a little bit. Have you heard vibrato? Let's say you're at a Broadway musical where they hold out straight tone and then they go into vibrato. Now, when singers do this, the vibrato, you'll notice, can either add core and release to the voice and clarity, or it can take it away. So here's kind of what that sounds like. So I was holding the straight tone, went into vibrato, core kind of disappears. I'll talk about why. The vowel, the pitch suffered, and I'm exaggerating a little bit, but if I don't exaggerate, something kind of like that. It happens, right? We hear it in Broadway, we hear it in opera, we hear it in pop. And the opposite of this is if somebody has a strong straight tone in their voice, and when they add the vibrato, the voice gets even stronger and it releases it even more. It sounds like this. And so a few things that are different, I use the vibrato to release more air, to release more clarity, more core, more chest voice, and to sing. And I used it to accent the top part of the vibrato, meaning that the vibrato goes up and down. We kind of hear the swooping up and down. And we need the vibrato to accent on the top of the pitch. We need it to accent on the top of the pitch with the vowel lining up, with the breath lining up, with everything lining up on the top of that peak of the vibrato. If it doesn't line up, or the air starts accenting in different spots in the vibrato, sometimes people will accent on the top and the bottom of their vibrato. And it just turns into a jiggly mess. Instead of a very clean, almost sounding straight tone, where we're trying to listen for da 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 da. And this can 100% be trained, and I know that it can be trained because my vibrato is a mess. You'll have to check out some of my before and after videos of my own singing. But I did not have this technical ability, and I learned a technical ability. So yes, this is absolutely something that we love to talk about. And it's the same type of vibrato, the same basic vibrato action, whether you're singing opera, pop, musical theater. We can stylize things different, but the basic technique of the vibrato and the accent and everything, we really want it to be the same. So what's happening for this main singer in Les Mis, as we kind of go back to that, I don't know if he was trying to sing in like a more legit style, like, oh, this is Les Mis. Maybe it needs to be a little bit more classical for this character that I'm doing, so I should add some vibrato. And that's not a bad thought, I think that fits with the style. But vibrato can either add core and clarity to the voice or take away. And in this case, his vibrato was accenting not quite correctly, and also the vowel was getting distorted as he was singing. So an example of this is if I go and the vowel's changing from A to on the bottom, it's also going to cause it to kind of accent on the bottom. So there's multiple layers of the vocal issues that happen here. Instead of keeping a very clear A release vowel that's accented on the top, but still released and clear while coming down the pitch. And it distorts the vowel and makes it hard to hear. And starts to jiggle and do some different things. So the thing that I thought was so fascinating was, we hear vibrato issues. Some of us maybe have more experience in training and hearing different vibrato issues. But when we hear a vibrato issue, we generally know, right? And we might think, oh, that makes the voice a little less pleasant. And that's definitely true. However, there are other pitfalls to having a distortion in your vibrato, and one of them is that it's going to be harder to hear the words that you say and understand the words that you say. Thought in mind, I wanted to talk about a couple of the other singers in Les Mis that maybe they didn't all have a perfect technique. There's different things going on with the different singers. But a couple of the singers maybe didn't have as beautiful sounding of a voice, maybe wasn't quite as easy to listen to as this main character in some ways, but they were easier to understand. And that can make your character more compelling because we know what you're saying. And the way that they did that was simplifying the voice, saying the words, singing clearly the words, not overly messing with things, trying to go too crazy with affects or, trying to do all of these different things. If you can just really simplify the words and say, Valjean, at last we see each other plain, and just say the word. And yes, if there is going to be vibrato, make sure that it's accenting properly. So it's not Valjean, at last we see, kind of becoming this jiggly mess. That's unpleasant and also hard to listen to. The more you can just kind of simplify plain Jane, the more we'll hear not only the words, but we'll also hear the line that the composer wrote. We can get more of a sense of legato and cleaner lines, and it's just more intelligible and easier to listen to. And then you can kind of add the artistry on top of that. But if your voice has these issues in it, what happens is you feel like you have to compensate, so then you have to act even more. And this is one thing that did happen with the character that I was talking about with the vibrato issues, one of the main characters, is that I think he kind of has a sense that his words are unintelligible. He also was mixing his voice a lot, so there was a lack of core, a lack of chest voice that was kind of helping him to project, even though there's a microphone right here. I know we think, oh, there's a microphone right here, so I don't have to have this chiaroscuro resonance that booms out into the hall, but you kind of do. And so I think he could kind of sense, and maybe he got direction, like, we need to hear your words better. We need to hear your words better. Diction, 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 right? Like, I'm sure there's a coach that's like, diction. And so he's like, okay, I got to try even harder. So then he would try shouting more words. And I'm all about shouting words. As an actor, you got to do whatever you've got to do. But if you're shouting so many words, again, it can start becoming a distraction because we want to hear the line of the music. And instead, we're just getting random shouts on every other word. And there's still no core from the voice. So we still can't really hear the word. And the vibrato is taking away from the core even more. So it's just kind of layer upon layer. And it makes it harder to follow the storyline. And I do have to say that he wasn't helped by the fact that the tempos were extremely fast throughout the play. I understand because, it kind of helps to keep the show moving along if the tempos are quick, and as an audience member you definitely don't want to feel like the show's dragging, but the tempos were very, very fast. And so that probably pushed people to the brink in some ways, but then having the vocal issues on top of that just made it really hard for us as an audience to really just sit and listen and understand every word. So in the past, I've listened to some Colm Wilkinson and just recently, and I was amazed by him as an actor. Every singer has technical things they're working on. Nobody's like got it all perfect all the time, as if perfect really exists, but you know what I mean? And he didn't have it all perfect and figured out all the time, but he, for the most part, just sang very simply. And if there was vibrato, sometimes like at the end of a phrase, but he just, what is this man? What sort of devil is he? Become a thief in the night? Because, I could be mixing up lyrics and stuff, but keeping it really simple, just saying the words, can be so much more effective than feeling like you gotta and like acting so much and trying to do so many things with your voice that feel emotional to you but are actually distracting and pulling away from what you're doing. So vibrato. Recently I saw a video from a really great singer, and she was saying that vibrato is just a symptom. It's just a symptom of the breath not functioning properly, of there being tension, or whatever. There are various things that can affect the vibrato. And this is true in some ways, but it's a little bit oversimplified, okay? Yes, the vibrato can be a symptom, but it also works from the opposite direction. And that is that the vibrato can help to teach your voice to release more, to release the breath freer. It can help to accent and find more core and strengthen the muscles, and your vibrato training can help do both things. And I was just talking about this with a student this morning, and he said it's kind of like the chicken or the egg, which comes first? Which comes first? The vibrato problems or the technical problems? And they kind of feed each other. And singing really is like that, okay? Everything kind of affects the other things. So is it the jaw tension that's causing the vibrato problems, or is it the vibrato problems that's causing the jaw tension, or the tongue tension, or the breath tension, or the da? They all come together and they influence each other. Sometimes releasing the jaw will help with the vibrato, and sometimes the vibrato will help you to release the jaw, over and over throughout. And you have to keep building these things for years, really listening carefully and keep building these muscles in all the different directions. So we don't want to oversimplify it. We don't want to make it too complicated either, but we can't oversimplify vibrato and say it's simply a symptom and that there's nothing else going on, because my experience has been the exact opposite. As I worked on all of these different things, my voice kept getting tighter and tighter, and my vibrato kept getting worse and worse. And when I started working specifically on the vibrato, I started discovering these other things that I had in my voice that then turned around and fed my vibrato and helped my vibrato to be better, which then turned around and helped my voice to be stronger, and over and over. So it's kind of a giving situation where the goodness just keeps coming in, or the tension can keep coming in and feeding. It can be a cycle in either direction. So it was so fun to talk to you today, talk to you about Broadway musicals, which I love. I'm an actor and I love that. I love being able to be there in the theater, to talk about singing, to talk about using your voice to be a better actor, to tell a more compelling story, and how the technique that you have can either help add to what you're doing or it can take away. And so I hope that this makes sense. Please let me know if you have questions. We talked about some technical things like the accent of the vibrato, and how these are all, everything is interconnected. Learning it on your own can be tricky. But if you have a good listening ear, if you have questions, if you want to talk about some of these things, I'd love to do it. Comment below. And if you're interested in doing some voice lessons, please hit me up. Check out my website, evandunn.com. I love nerding out with my students and talking about singing that I love so much and developing these things in our voices. So go out there and take the stage, my friends. Really, the world needs your voice, so we need you to just keep singing and doing what you love to do. And we'll talk to you next time.